In the last lecture, I showed you how to install Cisco Packet Tracer, so hopefully you've got that done already. In this lecture, I'll show you how to use the lab exercises that are included in the course. First thing to tell you is where to actually find the lab exercises. So as you can see here, I am logged into the course. And to get the lab exercises, they're included at the end of all of the technology sections. The first lab exercise is at the end of section 4. So if you see there, the section 4 is the Cisco iOS operating system. And if I expand down that section, you can see that the last lecture is the iOS operating system lab exercises. And if I click on that and scroll down a little bit here in the main window, you can see I've got a link there to download a zip file. So I'll do that now. So I'll click on the zip file and download it. Okay, while that is downloading, let me show you where the other lab exercises are. So the first few sections, a lot of them do not have lab exercises. And the reason for that is that I cover the foundational information in the first few sections. I need to do that to lay the groundwork for learning the technologies that are going to be covered later in the course. So those first sections that are covering the foundational knowledge, there's no actual hands-on component to them, so there's no lab exercise. It wouldn't be relevant to have a lab exercise in those sections. So out of the first few sections, the first section that does have a lab exercise is section 4, the one that I just downloaded. The next one after that is section 11, Cisco Device Functions. So if I look at section 10, for example, and expand that out, you'll see there's not a lab exercise at the end of that section because it wouldn't be relevant there. But from section 11, if I expand that out, again, you can see at the end of the section, there's a lab exercise there. You can click on it. And again, in the main window here, if I scroll down, you see that there's a zip file to download the lab exercise. And every section after section 11, you're going to find a lab exercise there. So what to do is you're going through the course, just go through the course from start to finish, watch the videos, and then at the end of each section that's got a lab exercise, do that lab exercise before moving on to the next section. Okay, so I've got that lab exercise downloaded now. They're really small, so it should only just take a few seconds to download. Let me have a look at that. And you'll see that it is a zip file. So if I open up this zip file and drag it over to my main window here, you see the first lab exercise, there's just 2 files there, which is the packet file, which will open in Packet Tracer, and there's also the lab exercise PDF, which is the instructions to do the lab exercise. So let's open the project first. I'll double click on the packet file, and that's going to open it up in Packet Tracer. Now, when you open Packet Tracer, if you haven't opened it for a little while, it's going to ask you for your login details, and you can see it's going to do that for me here. So I will enter the email address that I used when I installed Packet Tracer. And then on the next page, it's going to ask me for my password as well. So I'll enter that, and then I can sign in. When I click on sign in, it's going to open up Packet Tracer, and it's going to open up the project. Now, this first project is just a walkthrough of the basic commands in iOS. So I've just got one router there. And if I go back to the zip file, and if I'm going to open up the lab exercise PDF, inside the lab exercise PDF, I'll drag that over to my main window here as well. It's going to give you instructions in here, step-by-step instructions of what to do the lab. Now, the first couple of lab exercises, I tell you the commands to use because the first couple of lab exercises are guided walkthroughs. In the later lab exercises, you're going to see that I don't tell you the commands to do because you'll have learned them already in the videos that you watched in that section. So when you do the lab exercise, it's going to be up to you to remember what the commands are. I'll show you that in a bit more detail in a second, actually. Okay, so I've got the step-by-step instructions here. I'm just going to follow the step-by-step instructions. As I follow them, to access the router, just click on the router that the lab exercise tells you to configure. And then in here, click on the CLI tab, and that will bring you to the command line interface. I'll hit enter in here. That gets me into the command line. I could then click enter enable to get to the enable prompt, and then config T to configure the terminal. Okay, so that's how you access the lab exercises. Just download the zip file, then open up the packet tracer file, and then follow the instructions in the lab exercise PDF. So you saw there that the first couple of lab exercises just have the packet tracer file and the lab exercise PDF because they're guided walkthroughs. But if I go back onto the course again, and I will download one of the other lab exercises here. So I'm just choosing one here at random. So this is the router and switch basics. I will download the zip file here as well, and then open it from my downloads folder. And you're going to see here that all the lab exercises after the first two are going to have more files in the zip file. What you'll find in there is, starting off at the top, the startup configurations. So if you're interested in quickly seeing the configuration that has already been applied to the routers and switches at the start of the lab, you'll find them in the basic configs here. So there you go, you see you'll find those as text files. Then there is the lab exercise and the answer key. So in these later lab exercises, the lab exercise PDF does not tell you the commands to enter. You should have learned them earlier in the section. So it's going to be up to you to configure the tasks in that lab exercise. Now, if you get stuck or if you want to check your work, I do also have the answer key there as well. The answer key tells you all the commands, everything that you should have done to complete that lab exercise successfully. So when you're doing any of the lab exercises, if you get stuck at all, if you're not sure of anything, just look in the answer key. It's going to tell you everything that you should have configured there. There is also the packet file again to open it up in Packet Tracer, and there's also a JPEG there as well. I'll just open up that, and that gives you the lab topology diagram. So what I recommend you do is you're going to need to open up the file in Packet Tracer to work on the lab. Also open up the lab exercise PDF, which has got the instructions of what to configure, and also open up this lab topology diagram so you can quickly and easily see what the actual lab topology is. Okay, so that is just about everything I have to tell you. One other thing that I wanted to mention is that not all iOS commands are supported in Packet Tracer. So I'm going to go back to Packet Tracer here. I'm going to go on to my router, and to give you an example, if I do a show run interface fast 0/0, it's going to tell me invalid input detected at the marker. So that is actually a valid iOS command. It's just that the command is not supported in Packet Tracer. So if you ever put a command in and you're sure that you've entered the correct command at the correct command level, but it's giving you that error message, it's just going to be because it's not supported in Packet Tracer. Okay, I think that was everything I needed to tell you here. If you have any issues with Packet Tracer, with the installation or with logging in or anything, then check the frequently asked questions doc that I'm going to have at the end of this section. Thanks.